So you got used to seeing me doing this in different settings. This one's I'm in my camper van and I'm lying down. Doesn't detract, I think, from the fact that the Abbotswood saga continues. And last time we spoke about the broad categorizations of how people approach their understanding of the world, ontology and epistemology. The first is about the nature of reality, matter, substance. The second is what we know about it or can know about it. And what you find in the current discourse is a whole bunch of relativistic kind of views which blur the distinction between ontology and epistemology. And the arch exponent of this is Jordan Peterson. So if you remember, when we were talking about ontology, the nature of existence, we veer from aspects of existence which we know about and other aspects which we can speculate about, and further and deeper aspects that we know nothing about. Dark matter is a placeholder for something that we kind of know a bit about but not too much, and likewise with dark energy, they are fundamental to our understanding of the nature of the universe. But the way we think about things is really quite interesting. For example, the Big Bang Theory is all predicated on this very simple notion that if the planets are moving apart, which they are doing, from whatever perspective you look at, from the Earth or from the Hubble telescope or from the James Watt telescope, if they're moving apart, they must have come from a source, and that source would be their no longer further reducible singularity. That's a theory, and it's not equivalent to other theories which explain other aspects of reality, but it has some merit simply because of this idea of inflation and deflation. But we'll come on to that later on. I just want to park it for a while because I'm talking about approaches and method here. What Jordan Peterson does is he talks about how everything, really, every theory, every account of reality, every account of our psychology and our being can be accounted for as a story, a kind of narrative. You look at all of this stuff, it's all about stories and narratives. Symbolism within the stories is a great fan of the Jungian archetypes, which he uses all the time to extrapolate from, the heroes, Harry Potter kind of thing. But underneath it, and it's very striking for Peterson, who's an anti-Marxist, what he calls postmodernism, anti-cultural Marxism, which are completely different things, but he kind of joins them up together. He's against Marxism for its attempt to understand the nature of capitalism, and he's against postmodernism for what he says is a Marxist critique of the Judeo-Christian tradition. In fact, postmodernism, if you like, through Derrida and Foucault and people like that, it's very critical of Marxism for its historical meta-analysis, this idea of there being an underlying nature or force, historical materialism or dialectical materialism. So the postmodernists were very critical of Marx, but Peterson doesn't understand. I don't think he's read any Marx, to be honest. He's just read the kind of Idiot's Guide to. But nevertheless, so Marxism is a story. How we explain evolution or the climate change. They're all kinds of stories. They're not they're not based on substantive truth claims. So they're kind of quite fairly abstract in that regard. But, and this is where it becomes odd, he reverts back to a kind of ultimate story, which is the Judeo-Christian creation story, of which all other stories, including scientific objectivity and rationalisation, is, as he describes, nested within this more fundamental story. And of course, from my perspective, this is a complete inversion of what's actually going on. What we have since the Enlightenment is an attempt to lay out the foundations of what we can reasonably assert as being knowledge about a thing. Not necessarily, but usually an objective knowledge if you follow the scientific method.